So good afternoon. I am still John Locke, Dean of GW Engineering, which means that I am not Dana Bowen Matthew, Dean of the George Washington University Law School. Dana was unfortunately unable to join us this afternoon. I was asked to stand in for her. I was thinking, I know Dana pretty well, have a lot of data on her, maybe a deep fake AI bot version of Dana, but Dana's a lawyer, so I will not do that, but I will try to represent her best I can. One thing I will say, I know that there are many faculty in our School of Law who are very heavily engaged in AI on multiple fronts, including working with our faculty in the engineering school and computer science department, and as well as faculty from across the campus, looking not only at laws that are going into action that are impacting and governing the use of AI, but also how AI is being used in the practice of law in things like our criminal justice system. So some of the things that we were just talking about with trustworthy AI applied in some of those contexts obviously create some really significant issues there. So it's, as I said before, Trustworthy AI at GW is a truly pan-university initiative, and the law school is very much a part of that. So I get the pleasure of introducing our closing keynote speaker, Jeremy Wacksman, Chief Operating Officer of Zillow. So Jeremy has been at Zillow Group since 2009 and was previously President and Chief Marketing Officer. As the trend in digitization and home buying has accelerated, his focus has been on the Zillow customer experience. His own experiences include prior roles leading marketing and product teams at Microsoft and the e-commerce and software company Trilogy Software. Please welcome Jeremy for our closing keynote.
How you doing, everyone? Thanks for sticking with us all the way to the end. It's an incredibly fun topic, I think, to spend the day on, and it's an incredibly fun topic for us in the real estate category. So I'm going to take a few minutes today to talk you through our experiences, some lessons learned we've found along the way with both technology in general and AI more specifically, a few minutes on where we see AI going in the real estate industry, and then we'll have plenty of time at the end for questions. But I'll start with who we are. I think many of you in the audience know Zillow. I think many of you have probably used us in your home shopping. Maybe some of you use us to buy and to sell. Maybe some of you have used us to rent. Maybe some of you haven't, but I'm sure all of you have seen us in your social feed somewhere. And you've seen us in the pop culture references that we get. Let's see if I can get the slides to go. 1 second. I might have to have someone advance them. Zillow is become a verb. Zillowing, Zillow surfing, it's parodied in Saturday Night Live, it's woven throughout pop culture, and it's kind of interesting if you think about the real estate category. We only buy a house once every 7 to 10 years, yet you see this, and it's because home means so much to all of us. We obsess about maybe we'll move, maybe we should fix up our home, maybe we should do something that our neighbor did, right? So the frequency that we all consume sites like ours and Zillow far outweighs the number of times we actually go through the process, which makes this category really unique. And it's what leads to things like this. Our brand has actually become more synonymous with the category than category terms. So this is Google search trends, and people search for Zillow or Zillow-related terms more often than they actually look to shop for homes. Now, what's driven this great brand affinity that we've built over the last 18 plus years is a technology obsession on our customers, on the consumer. And AI is actually something that's been in our DNA since we founded the company. Many of you may not know that the very first product that Zillow launched, the Zestimate, was 2006 AI. It was a machine learning automated valuation model. And we thought, what if we could help you understand what your home is worth? That was our very first product. It was incredibly popular, so popular in fact that when we launched, it actually crashed the website. Millions of people flocked to the website trying to figure out what is their home worth, what is their neighbor's home worth, maybe what is their boss's home worth. Provocation in real estate was something that was new and was novel. But for us, it was actually just about starting to turn on the lights for consumers. And that really was our mission. It was to say, can we take something that looks like this, This is the real estate industry before the internet and before Zillow, where you didn't really know what the neighborhood looked like. You kind of knew what a home for sale was or what a home had sold for, but as a buyer and a seller, it was really hard to get data. So our very first product was focused on a consumer innovation, and we called a BHAG at the company. BHAG stands for Big, Hairy, Audacious Goal. We love those at Zillow. We set huge targets and figure out if we can work backwards to achieve them. And our first one was, could we transform this picture into this picture? Where you see things that are for sale, those were available, but can you see a price on every rooftop in America? And that was our goal, and that's what led to the Zestimate. And again, that was about turning on the lights in the real estate industry, giving data to buyers and sellers that they previously didn't have to help them work with their professionals to make better real estate decisions. Now, along the way, we've had many BHAGs at the company since, but they're all focused on one thing, which is how can we help consumers get what they want? How can we help build technology to meet the needs of consumers? Our BHAG today is actually focused on this picture, this snarled mess of a real estate transaction. Those of you in the audience that have bought or sold a home before, this picture probably looks familiar to you because you had to walk this line. You had to work with all these parties. It takes months to buy a house. It takes thousands of documents. It takes hours coordinating with dozens of professionals. It costs tens of thousands of dollars. We do a ton of consumer research at Zillow. And people describe buying or selling a house as more stressful than planning a wedding or interviewing for a job. A third of sellers report crying at some point in the process. That is not a delightful experience that technology is helping enable. So while we have turned on the lights around data, our new mission, our new BHAG, is about trying to solve this problem, actually help make the transaction and buying and selling easier. And our approach to it is something we're calling the Housing Super App. And that is bringing together all of the disparate pieces of the transaction into one place, allowing you to think about financing information. Let me pull that up. Financing information, negotiating information, communicating with your agent, all in the palm of your hand, and having great professionals behind the scenes to work with you. So it's something we've been hard at work at for a couple years. We're not done. It's a BHAG. It's going to take us years to work on this problem. And AI is increasingly playing a role in building the technology to deliver this. And so what I'm going to share with you today are some examples of that. All of the examples I'm going to give you work backwards from the consumer. That is the North Star at Zillow. That's what we orient our company around. And it's a good segue into lesson number one from Zillow, from our perspective, 18 years here. And that is that the consumer is always going to get what they want. When we say that at Zillow, we mean that technology will find a way, consumer desire and demand will drive the innovation forward, and so we always talk about working backwards from trying to give the consumer what they want. And that means things generally, and that means things iteratively. And let me give you a couple examples. We talked about the Zestimate. That launched in 2006, but that hasn't stopped. And the 2006 Zestimate was on 40 million homes, and I think had about a 10% error rate. The technology at the time. We've been working on the Zestimate ever since. Today, the Zestimate is available on over 100 million homes in the country, and the error rate for an on-market listing is under 2%. Now, it's an automated model. It's going to be wrong sometimes. It's going to have errors in its data, but it is the most accurate starting point valuation for a buyer or a seller to have a conversation with an agent or think about a home they want to buy or sell. And it continues to get better and learn every day. Today's version is powered by neural networks. It's called the Neural Zestimate, and it updates in almost real time. And so that's an example of we launched something, but consumer expectations continue to rise. How can we use AI and technology to keep improving it? And we have dozens of those examples. Zillow has spent years working on personalization. If you all use Zillow, you get homes recommended to you. We're learning from what you spend time with, what you share with your spouse or your partner, and we're trying to tune our recommendations to you. Well, along the way in real estate, financing became a lot more important than dreaming as we saw affordability challenges. Now, 60% of buyers start with a budget question, and that's very different from what it was a decade ago. So we're spending a lot of our AI effort on can we build personalized financing experiences? Rather than a standard stock calculator that isn't tuned to your needs, can you get a true buyability number that you can travel around while you shop, you can take with your agent to really understand your buying power. And that's a new tool we're piloting. Again, taking our personalization efforts and bringing them to what consumers now are asking for. Take search. I think many of you are probably familiar with natural language search. We've had a search box on Zillow since 2006. We've all used search boxes for years. Today, we all expect to be able to talk to a search box the way we talk to our partner or talk to our friends. We want to express what we want in a natural language way. And so using AI to deliver natural language search on the back end so you can express your search more naturally to us. You can do deeper searches, and we can help tune the site to you. So those are all examples of us using AI and technologies to just continue to improve and meet and match consumer expectations in the category generally. But what if we could actually innovate on the listing itself? We're spending a lot of AI time thinking about a real estate listing, which many of you see, whether you are shopping or you're browsing Zillow Gone Wild on Instagram, is not that different from what it was in a magazine. It's 20 to 25 photos, it's a text block, it's some core facts and features. It's very hard to kind of triage and imagine what it's like, so you end up going to see the house a lot. Well, we thought, what if we could use technology to actually create a virtual listing? And so what you're seeing behind me is a video of something we call Listing Showcase. It's taking photos and 3D panoramas that real estate photographers already capture on homes, and it's generating a walkthrough of the house. It's saying, can I walk from room to room? Can I spin around? Can I get a virtual tour? We use machine learning and deep computer vision to take all that imagery and generate a super accurate floor plan that you can see on the right here. And on that floor plan, we actually drop where the photos were taken and in what orientation they were in the room, truly giving you a sense of what it's like to be there. This is using homegrown AI that Zillow's been working on for the last few years, and it just takes a fresh approach to say, well, instead of capturing static, can we capture a little more, and can we use AI to explode the amount of media that we can offer to the consumer? And unsurprisingly, as you watch this, these listings are a huge hit with buyers and sellers. They're only on a small percentage of listings today, but we see double the engagement with buyers. They spend more time browsing, saving, sharing, and the homes go pending faster. Because of course, you can get a better sense of the home before you go take the time to get in your car and go see the house. Right? So these are all examples of using technology to drive forward for the consumer and thinking about how can AI reimagine some of the experiences we offer to the consumer. Some of them are homegrown, some of them are built on platforms, which brings me to lesson number 2, which is embrace new opportunities. We're here today talking about AI, and we'll get to AI as an opportunity in a second, but Zillow has faced new platforms and challenges often in our 18 years as a company. It happened early in our tenure. We launched in 2006 as Zillow.com, a desktop or laptop only search engine. Right? We were optimized for the big screen browser, and a year or two in, the iPhone and then the App Store came out. And here we were, a company built for one thing, and the smartphone was there, and it became very clear that mobile was going to be the way that searches were done, and that was a foreign concept to us as a company. We had no mobile developers, we had no mobile expertise. Well, we did what I've talked to you about doing. We caught a BHAG around it, caught a big focus on it. We actually dropped .com from our name as a big culture statement that says we're going to be mobile first, we're going to prioritize mobile first, and we embraced the mobile revolution. And obviously, it's very obvious in hindsight, but at the time, it was probably hard to think about. But mobile is tailor-made for real estate, right? Why type things into your laptop when you can just tap or draw on the screen what you want? Real estate's quip is location, location, location. Browsing homes near me, walking around your neighborhood with your GPS active to see what's for sale, that's just a better shopping experience. And so mobile fueled an explosion in time spent with Zillow and engagement with our consumers. But again, before we jumped on that train, we couldn't see that that was what the other side looked like. But we leaned in and we invested heavily. And since then, we've done that really with every new platform we see. Whether they become big or small, we want to experiment and learn what their potential is. When the iPad came out, we worked with Apple to build an iPad app for the launch of the App Store, to imagine what does magazine-like shopping on a bigger screen look like. More recently, Apple launched their Vision Pro, their spatial computing device, and we took that listing showcase listing I showed you earlier, and we said, well, what happens if you put the goggles on and you don't just kind of scroll around? What if you can actually look around and what it's like to be in the house? Now, this is a super early V1 product, but the promise of this in terms of real estate shopping, as we look at it, is incredible. Right? If you could hand people who want to shop these glasses and say, here, try actually being in the house, that is virtual shopping. So again, the lesson here is lean into these new opportunities and platforms and figure out how they work for you, whether they end up being a seismic shift in your business or just a really good experiment you learn from. Which brings us to generative AI and AI more broadly. We think this may be a platform shift as large as the Industrial Revolution or as large as the dawn of computing. And we frame it this way just to also give context for how early we are in the developments. And from our perspective, how fast the pace of change is accelerating. It's daunting, it's exciting to see the innovation and the pace of change and new tools and technologies and capabilities. They are measured in days and weeks, not in months and years. And that brings me to my third lesson, which is you also have to innovate responsibly, even if that means taking a beat and having some thoughts on where you want to go. So we want to embrace the new things, we want to try, we want to fail fast, but we have to be very, very thoughtful about how we do it, especially when it comes to generative AI, and especially in real estate. Real estate has a long history of inequality. This month is actually Fair Housing Month. And making sure that AI is responsible in how it solves or makes better fair housing issues and doesn't propagate or make them worse is a huge responsibility for everyone who works in our category. Zillow published research that housing accounts for 40% of a massive $3 trillion wealth gap between black and white households. And the home ownership rate between these groups is worse now than it was in the 60s. So this has been a problem for a long time. It's been a problem since the inputs that created redlining, and it has not gotten better. And you can sit there and imagine to yourself how AI can help or how AI could harm. Let me show you an example of how quickly customers are going to ask questions of chatbots that may help or may harm. So this is something we put together. Here are a couple queries, and I'll read for those who can't see in the back. This is what's a good neighborhood for Latinos in Seattle, and would a chatbot answer that question? These are all queries we've gotten from customers as we've iterated and tried these tools. This is someone saying, I don't want to live by people that use Section 8 vouchers. Another one we saw was, I'm looking for a home in a young, hip neighborhood. That part of the question's great, away from older people, a protected class. Right? So whether innocuous, whether sinister, the questions and the queries are going to very quickly run into guardrails. Right? And we at Zillow are working on an LLM classifier that we're going to open source so that other real estate and technology platforms can use that to train their models to make sure they don't run afoul of fair housing guidelines. It just shows you, though, how quickly this becomes a problem in our category and why taking the beat to innovate responsibly is so important. And it's also why we took a beat to figure out what our AI principles are, both for ourselves and what we think for the industry. You can read more about them at the website below, but I'll briefly touch on them. One is fairness. Fairness in ensuring we test the data we use and the models we build are fair for all types of audiences. Two is privacy and safety, making sure we are very careful as we mix standard public data with customer data, and we are clear about privacy rights and policies. Three is transparency. We are open about how and where our technology is deployed and when you're interacting with it. And four is inclusiveness. Again, as that example just showed, proactively mitigating bias and working to train models to do so. So we have a cross-functional ethical AI team that works with our product and technology organization. It is very early days, but we felt it was really important, and I know it was discussed earlier today, to have principles and guardrails to design around rather than to try and solve all problems before you even discover what they are. And to folks in the room who work with policymakers and regulators, we really think this is an important issue for us all to sit down and discuss. That it's going to take a dialogue across technology companies, across policymakers, across platform providers to figure out how to create the right level of principles to ensure that AI is developed responsibly in real estate. And it's a huge commitment of ours as we work on this. Okay, so where do we go from here? I don't have a crystal ball like the one on the slide, would suggest that I do. But before we talk about the future of real estate, we have to talk of AI in real estate. We have to talk about what the real estate industry is undergoing right now. Many of you may not know there have been a series of lawsuits around buyers and sellers cooperating around compensation and buyers and sellers' rights. And recently, NAR, the National Association of Realtors, settled and will pay monetary damages to consumers and will help usher in some business practice changes. Now, Zillow's not a part of these lawsuits, but we've obviously been following them very closely. And the settlements are playing out largely as we expected. They adhere to our consumer-first marketplace principles, which we also publish. If you're ever interested, advocacy.zillowgroup.com talks about our consumer principles that we push and work really hard on. And those are really centered on three things. One, access to data. Everything I showed you today, companies like ours, are able to build because we all have great access to data. One of the things that's unique about the US real estate market is as buyers and sellers, we can get so much on our phones for free. And that's a huge consumer and industry benefit and drives a lot of transparency. Two, independent representation. There's a lot of headlines around what that means, but we are very excited that buyers and sellers, if they so choose, will be able to hire their own agent. And that's something that's also uniquely prevalent in this country, is that you have someone who's working for you, who's looking out for your fiduciary interests, if that's what you choose to hire. And then three, transparency and education. That's probably the biggest one. Most consumers don't know how this industry works, so better education, better disclosure, so that consumers understand who gets paid, how they get paid, and that they can negotiate. That's a big change that comes out of this. Now, all those principles line up with consumers in the driver's seat wanting a housing super app, right? And AI, as we've talked through, can really help accelerate magical technology for the consumer. And it's really easy if you're sitting in the audience and you don't spend as much time in the industry as I do to go, well, can't generative AI just replace the agent? Like, can't I just, the chatbot you just showed, can't you just use that as the agent? And I'm here to tell you after 18 years here, no. Unlike summoning an Uber or buying a commodity on the internet, we all buy houses once every 7 to 10 years. And when we do, it's the single largest financial decision we will all make. And it has a massive impact on our outcome in life, on where we live for the next 20 years. Being wrong by 0.5% is thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. And more important than money, it actually impacts your life. You might not get into the school district you want. You might not be in the neighborhood you want, right? These are decisions you make once. They are, as we call them, one-way door decisions. Those are not decisions that you leave to chance. Those are decisions where you hire great professionals to help you. Now, the key word there is great professionals. And just like technology has risen consumer expectations, technology is elevating what we all want from our real estate agents. We survey consumers, obviously, and look and respond to their needs. What's fascinating to us is through the rise of technology, through the rise of mobile, through the rise of AI, the desire of buyers to hire real estate agents has gone up. It was 82% last decade, it's 88% now, right? It makes sense if you stop and think about it. We all want help. We just probably want different help than you would have said 10 years ago, right? We need technology to not just build the magic for consumers, it has to elevate the real estate professional as well. So we've talked a bunch today about virtual touring. We obviously see that as an incredible place for AI to continue to drive benefits and innovation for the consumer. Imagine what I showed you today, and fast forward a few years. Imagine being able to generate different times a day, or different landscapes, or different furniture, or different remodels. You could actually have the virtual tour be better than the physical tour because you could ask what-if questions, right? Imagine personalization becoming one-to-one. Right now, we in sites like ours do segment-based personalization. I learn a little bit about you, I try and tune our algorithms, and I bucket you into a segment. Well, generative AI has the potential to have Zillow be different for me than it is for you. A very intimate experience that learns and is infinitely patient with me as I use it. Right? Those are great, magical consumer experiences that we hope to see come in the next few years. But they also have to come for the professionals behind the scenes that help us all buy and sell the homes. And we talk a lot about co-pilots in this industry. Well, real estate is tailor-made for co-pilots. Right? If you think about that snarl of a housing process I talked about, every professional in there is doing a whole lot of paperwork and a whole lot of busy work and a whole lot of coordination and project management and document collection. those are all things that are not just tailor-made for technology, they're tailor-made for generative AI, right? And what's more interesting is the professionals that you are working with, they didn't sign up to do project management and paperwork. They signed up to be advisors and consultants and negotiators and neighborhood experts, therapists sometimes, right? They are professional service, client service focused. So if we can help automate the parts of their job that they have to do so they can do the parts of the job that they want to do, well, that turns them into the super agent for our super app. So we are very fond at Zillow when we talk to our agent partners about saying, we do tech so you can do real estate. And that's something that helps them think about, well, how do we help them? How can they leverage us as they build their business? And that has been a phrase we've used since before the rush of generative AI. But I think now, more than ever, generative AI really has the potential to deliver on that promise so that we can get the consumer what they want, which is a super app. And it takes the consumer and it takes the professional. It takes tech and it takes humans. All right, thank you. I'm going to open it up for questions. And they gave me an iPad and told me 3 times how to use it, so hopefully I don't screw that up. Okay, Ben asks, are you building a similar end-to-end experience for rentals? Yes, we focused today on for sale, but folks may not know we actually have a pretty large rentals business as well. And the rentals are both single family, so homes you might rent, or multifamily apartments you might rent. We actually have the largest rentals audience out there as well. We have the most renters. And in the rentals marketplace, end-to-end is a little different. So end-to-end is a renter comes and they can do an application with us and reuse that application on multiple listings. And then if they end up renting with one of the folks who uses our rental tools, they can actually go right into signing a lease or make payments with the landlord. So the snarl is not quite as bad in rental. It's why I kind of talked about the BHAG we have in for sale. But we are equally trying to help solve that problem and make it cheaper, faster, better for renters as well. It's a very different supply side set. There are no MLS constructs. Most real estate agents don't work in rentals. But from a consumer standpoint, again, working backwards from the consumer, most renters and buyers are shopping side by side, and they're thinking, can I rent or can I buy? And so offering that inventory to them to help them make that decision is equally as important to us. So don't let the 20 minutes I spent in the for sale examples understate our excitement for rentals. What is your advice for, they move around. What is your advice for people at the beginning of their first home buying experience? Ooh, that's a good question. Do your research. And make sure you find a great professional. I would say those are my 2 biggest things. What we've seen over the 18 plus years is the more data and technology we give people, the more empowered they are. And if you talk to our great agent partners, they say customers show up more educated, more empowered now than they did before. But that's also overwhelming. And we like to say at Zillow, like, people love to have choice. Everyone wants to do as much as they can on their own, but everyone eventually pushes the help button. They're like, okay, I've gotten as far as I can on my own, and now I need a professional's opinion. And so, do your research, but know that you're going to need a great professional somewhere down the road, and you could choose to interview those people early, or you could choose to interview those people when you get stuck. But those are the 2 things I would say. Where do you see AI providing the most value to consumers throughout the real estate transaction? Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, we talked a little bit about it. The transaction process itself is a lot of almost regulated paperwork, right? Think about the loan that you have to originate. It's actually kind of government mandated to be a certain way in a certain structure and have the right document collection. The consumer spends a ton of time from time of offer to close. And that's a lot of paperwork and process and de-risking and basically ensuring everyone in the transaction. That really sounds like a fruitful ground for generative AI to help collect and suggest and make that better, both for the consumer and the professional. And then, of course, you saw we're obviously super bullish on the ability to create more interactive, more immersive ways to shop without having to go see the house. And again, it's not that you're not going to go see the house, it's that can you be more informed when you show up? And can you only go visit the houses you want to see? Again, it puts you more in control of the shopping experience. Let's see. Yeah, you mentioned transparency as a principle. How can transparency be achieved with such complex and dynamic models? Yeah, it's a hard problem, and it's why we started with principles. It's also why we started with that lesson of take a beat, right? We actually worked on plugins early. That's where we got a lot of that data, and it taught us really quickly the problems we had to work on. And so that led us to creating principles that we publish, open sourcing our classifier, trying to take an approach to let's be as transparent as we can. But it's not an easy problem to solve, and it's one that I think we all need to think about as we develop these tools. What is the biggest challenge of building the housing super app? I think it's a little bit what I talked about, that it's not as easy as just have technology do it all, right? I saw a lot of heads nod when I talked about the solution and things we all want. To do that, the technology has to work for the consumer. The agent, the loan officer, the title insurer all have to plug in and do their part. The data has to all flow between all those parties. And by the way, you as a buyer, you're actually coordinating with another consumer represented by an agent on the other side, and they have to plug in. So it's an incredibly complicated transaction, necessarily so. And coordinating all that and building the technology and the rails to get all that right for all parties, that's what makes it more complicated. The Vision Pro app looks really cool. Do you think that's going to be the future of home shopping? We're pretty excited about it. I will say, it's a V1 platform. It's $3,000. There are not going to be a ton out there yet, but it is the potential platform. And again, if you saw that video, if we work backwards from the consumer benefit, which is can you get a sense of what it's like to live there, if you put those glasses on, you absolutely can. So as the platforms become more adopted, as the headsets get cheaper, as other platforms follow Apple's lead and you have multiple choices, you'll see more of this out there. We talk to listing agents all the time. They're like, I want to bring this to my clients and have them use it while they're shopping with me. So innovation and creativity will find a way. I use it as an example because it helps showcase, again, even if there aren't a ton of those out there yet, for us, we think about what's the potential capability and how can we build towards that future. Okay, in your end-to-end process, the financing piece is by far the most complicated. How will you bring banks along, or will you start offering financing directly? It's a great question. Zillow actually does. We have Zillow Home Loans, a place where we originate loans. So in that first-party experience, we can iterate and innovate a lot on our own. You could imagine down the road, a lot of other originators will adopt similar standards. And actually, if you listen to other mortgage originators, everyone from Rocket to others, they talk a lot about the same potential of AI as a loan officer co-pilot and generative AI as a way to really streamline the transaction. So I agree, it is the most complex, but it's also very structured, right? A conforming loan looks a certain way to eventually get to a GSE for a variety of reasons. So the ability for AI to tackle that problem is pretty exciting to us, even though it is super complex to all of us as consumers. Okay, does the virtual tour increase the sales price of the home? No, well, maybe I'm misunderstanding the question. It does help the home sell faster. We don't know if it helps the home sell for more, because that's more of a decision of the seller choosing to get a price and naming their price. But we do see that homes go pending faster, and homes are more folks shop the homes. Okay, with technology at the forefront of your business, what are the most important guardrails to optimize cybersecurity to protect customer data? I'll actually say that most of our AI principles probably apply to cybersecurity as well. If I think about ensuring fairness, ensuring security and privacy of customer data, and ensuring transparency, I think those same things, we take our customers' privacy very seriously. Our brand is only as good as the trust our customers have in it. And so I think you could apply those same principles to cybersecurity. How does Zillow determine which tech to develop yourself, like Zestimates, versus partnering with existing tech like the glasses? That's a great question. And we kind of do build versus buy as a technology company every time we look. Some of it is exactly that. Is this something we feel like we have to build ourselves, or is this something that we feel like we can partner on? Some of it is size of opportunity. We're not going to go create a platform. We are going to ideally innovate on top of platforms. But even as we're thinking about capabilities within AI, and are we going to build our own Are we going to use off the shelf? Are we going to partner with an enterprise? Are we going to use open source and tune it for ourselves? We're constantly making those evaluative trade-offs through R&D and through trying. And again, it goes back to that lesson of kind of embrace new opportunities. One of the things that's most fascinating to me about this space is when I meet with our scientists who are innovating on these things, every week it's different. And it's not just every week they've done something, it's every week there's 7 other papers out there and releases of what everyone else is doing for them to try on. So you have to stay very nimble on what do you need to build yourself, what can you buy off the shelf, what can you partner on. And that evolves, especially as, again, that technology curve moves from innovative to commoditized. Okay, how will this tool impact real estate law? Yeah, that I can't say. I'm not a lawyer. But what I can say is, fair housing has been a challenge in our industry and in the data sets for years, and really as long as real estate's been around. And so we do a ton of work to turn on the lights around that topic. We do a ton of advocacy. We publish things on our website. We do consumer engagement with products where we show things to consumers to try and help shine a light. And so that's our role. Our role is to use technology to shine a light on the problem and try and figure out how can technology help solve the problem. I can get our GC up here to talk about how he thinks the law might change, but from my standpoint, it is really about turning the lights on, shining a light, and making things more transparent. Okay, maybe the last question. Where are you heading next with innovation? Well, I think that's actually a great one to end on. What we're talking about today is where we're spending a lot of our time and effort. Generative AI, again, it is this potential industrial revolution. We talked a lot today about consumer innovation. We talked a little bit about kind of agent and operator innovation, and there's also employee innovation. And internally, we talk a lot about that. We talk a lot about what consumer experiences are we building, what agent or professionals experiences are we building, and what employee experiences are we building? And are we empowering our engineers to code faster? And are we helping our marketers create better copy? And are we getting the right tools to our designers to design better? And it's going to change how we all work too. So while we're trying to build and work backwards from our end users, we're also trying to think about how can we innovate for ourselves. And we're going to learn from a lot of our peer and sister companies, not just in the real estate industry, but in broader industries on how to do all that. So for us, this space is pretty exciting. And if I think back to what we talked about earlier, leaning in and embracing the new opportunity, trying to innovate responsibly, and working backwards from the customer, I think you want to apply those to any place you want to spend your time and energy innovating. Okay, well, thank you all very much.